Good evening, all my little Pokemons. Mewtwo here with you tonight, and I'm talking about something a little bit more manly in my childhood. Specifically, a toy slash comic book slash cartoon that really did make a difference in my life as far as creativity and um, entertainment in general. And that would be G.I. Joe. Now, when I was pretty young, I did get a few G.I. Joe things, not knowing what they really were. Just people got me boy toys because I was a boy. I mean, that's how you do. Get the girls a baby doll or Barbie and get the boys something with guns. Obviously. If you don't do that, you're like parenting wrong, apparently. At least back then it was. So, I had G.I. Joe toys before we had G.I. Joe as a cartoon. At least where I lived. It may have been a cartoon before then, but I didn't get to see it for a bit. And I really enjoyed all the little intricacies of playing with my couple of G.I. Joe guys. And I had a missile launcher tank that was pretty cool. At least the time was pretty cool. Lots of little details, lots of hidden panels. One thing I really liked about G.I. Joe vehicles, they often had like lift up panels where you could see the engines. See this bit of interior for no apparent reason, because it didn't actually make the toy work any better, but it gave the option of like a play option of when your guys had to fix the tank all of a sudden or fix the jet. They had to bust open the panel where the engine is and get in there and fiddle around with stuff and close it back up real quick before the bad guys came. It gave you something to work with, and I liked that. It gave special details that they didn't need to put in there and were really appreciated by those of us who noticed them. Problem being, though, some kids would then lose panels or cover engine bits, and you'd have a plane flying over with like engine hanging out where it shouldn't be, or a tank with a big hole in its side where, oh, how'd you have access to the port to look at things? I tried my best not to lose bits, but it still would happen. um, Now, I collected a lot of G.I. Joe stuff as a kid. I still have much of it. Some of it's still at my parents' house. I did, though, acquire a large chunk of it recently, and it's upstairs in the toy room. Um, Mostly my mans and the weapons and things, and a few small vehicles that happen to be stored with them. Um, Now, there were several worlds of G.I. Joe. I started in small figure G.I. Joe. I was not around for Barbie doll sized G.I. Joe. I did play with one when I was little because Uncle Ted had one, which was then at Grandma's house, and I got to play with it sometimes. Uh, but I spend more time playing Legos at her house, so that didn't get as much entertainment out of me, but Legos definitely did. Now, as far as small G.I. Joes, the like 3.5 inchy type dudes, um, they were awesome. And there were enough other semi-compatible action figure that get over the years, like Star Wars people or um, other miscellaneous people that came with toys that happened to be that size. I remember I had this semi truck that just happened to be the right size for G.I. Joe type people, and it came with a little driver guide. He didn't have articulate. He was more Star Wars man-esque, just straight legs and arms that bent at their joint, which is bendy. But he became part of my G.I. Joe world effectively, as did his truck, because it could seat two people and they could drive this big black semi truck, which was kind of nice. Um, Now, I had a lot of different vehicles and things over the years. Jets and tanks and helicopter-y things and whatnot. I don't remember what all of them are, because some of them did get broke over time because not everything is meant to last, unfortunately. Um, and I'd often make forts out of things like cardboard box. I'd cut windows and doors out and make battlements and use tape and make defensive encampments on them, mount weapons on them from some of the pieces sections, and maybe some of the vehicles that had been broken over the years. I'd be like, oh, missile launcher, that's part of this defensive building out. Um, So it did add a lot of it encouraging creativity with me, which was a really nice thing. Um, and I'd make up my own stories with the characters, and uh, made for a good quality diversity of how to play with my things. Um, Now, the TV show was probably my first interaction with them, the characters with someone else coming up with the ideas, because I didn't get the comic books initially. My parents didn't think I'd want them, and they're wrong, but I would have read them. I obviously have found time to read all of them at some point, so there's that. But the cartoon, which initially had aired in small chunks, there was initially like a 5 episode movie. There was another one, and there was then some short series. Initially all by the Sunbow company, which was the best of it. They really did a good job of exploring the characters, not making it too toyetic, but definitely being toyetic. And um, had good action and good interaction with the characters, great voice acting. Um, Eventually, uh, after quite a few mini-series sections and a straight-up movie, which was fun as all get out. We really enjoyed the G.I. Joe movie. That was kick. Original cartoon G.I. Joe movie with Cobra Law and an origin of where Cobra Commander came from, Serpentor being now more prominent, uh, important, and telling Cobra Commander he was useless, and getting him mutated into a snake thing that was just out there. Uh, I would definitely say the 5-part miniseries episodes, even though the first one was like the first thing that came out, any of those 5-part miniseries were the best sets of episodes because you had a continuing cool plot for a whole week because it was shown on when I saw it Monday through Friday. So you had a whole week of a continuous story of G.I. Joe. And like the Pyramid of Darkness or the I can't even remember what they all were. I remember that one by name, but I don't remember the other ones' names. Go figure. But I loved when they came out. Oh, Rise of Serpentor, that was one of the 5-parters. That was a really good one. Um, but that series was amazing. Uh, there was a little bit of a carryover series between it and the later series that was done by Deke. I believe it was made by Deke. I can't remember for sure, but it definitely was more elements of the original kind of mixed in with the quality of the newer one. So it probably was Deke. It was another short series that involved when they added serpent print to some of the vehicles. It was just a reason to resell this several vehicles with a new paint job. Same model, new paint job, resell. And yes, I owned at least one or two of those because they did look pretty cool. Um, and then it moved on to the straight up Deke series, which was pretty downhill, if you ask me. Characters were not as entertaining. We had a lot more extremely toyetic vehicles and forced looking like toys on the screen. Yes, I wanted a lot of the toys, but the characters were just too forced. Um, and part of the problem is there were several lines of toys that were made coming up through the original series and everything coming up to this. And that little brief period where we had the mid series, there was a ton of toys that had come out for stuff that was going on not in the cartoons that didn't get uh, a lot of voice, and a lot of it got missed by people because you were buying toys for the original cartoon or toys for the new cartoon, and you didn't realize all this stuff in the middle was actually pretty cool and could have been really entertaining. But it was at that point that toys got more toyetic, as in telling you how you're supposed to play with them. They weren't as cool looking. They didn't really feel as awesome military vehicle as, or futuristic, strange specials vehicle. It just seemed like, and here's the thing with a bunch of rockets. We're not going to tell you how this would structurally be sound, but look, the big top flips up and there's a rocket launcher. Like, well, you got a guy sitting down there on the bottom, a guy sitting up on the top. It's like, didn't really feel as, didn't feel thought out as much. Uh, and then there were a lot of later stuff, like guys with noise-making backpacks and more launching rocket things and reruns of other characters, and it just sort of went a little bit south at that point. And that's about when the original stuff died. Eventually, they did have a G.I. Joe Extreme show, which was against a whole other setup. Had nothing to do with any of the other G.I. Joe stuff. I'm not going to talk about it too much anymore because that was kind of dumb. Toy line sucked. The show sucked. We're going to go back in time again. Now, back around when before the Sunbow series started, I believe, was the G.I. Joe comics. And unlike the cartoon, they used bullets. The cartoon, they had to edit out all bullet shooting to being lasers, because lasers are fine, and no one ever hardly hit anybody. The only people that ever got hit were like vipers and pointless people, and they were just injured. No one died. Comic books, people died. They used bullets. They were bleeding. They hurt people, which was actually more adult and cool, and actually I felt was more honest to the kids reading this stuff than the ones watching the cartoons. The stories were a lot more in depth, and of course, because it was comics, they were continuously rolling stories. Things happened. Um, you found out a lot more about some of these toys that were out during, especially the dead zone between Sunbow and Deke, because a lot of stuff did come up in the comics. A lot of the characters, a lot of the extra Viper types, a lot of the weapons, a lot of the really neat vehicles that never made it onto the TV series at all, especially some of the bigger good guy carrier vehicles. I loved the giant crawlers. Those were amazing. I owned at least one of them. I know the one I wanted the most was it was a big green thing and had giant missiles that folded out of the back of it, all sorts of gun pods around it. I know it was giant and illogical, but at least it felt like it made sense, as opposed to some of the later Deke era toys that just felt like we're adding a squirt gun on there just because we want to add a squirt gun. So a lot of that cool stuff did show up in the comics earlier and to the mid-zone. And it really gave point to some of this stuff, and it was really exciting. I borrowed the comics when I was a teenager, because I found a friend who had owned almost all of them, and I was actually able to find and read the few that he didn't have in the beginning. So I did get to read the entirety of beginning to end before I'd even had the internet, where I found the comic book files, and they're on the hard drive. So really great comic. Only towards the end did it get a little bit more. It was also around the time we were getting to that Deke era and a lot of the toyetic year toys, and those started to show up, and that's around when the comic book did end. So yeah, I'm okay with it having ended because we've gotten to a point where we weren't showing anything else that was quality. But we did get a long ways up into there, and we had a lot of fun. If you get a chance, you find them, please give that comic a read. If you want to watch the G.I. Joe cartoon, definitely check out the Sunbow era. That was the first parts. The Deke stuff, yeah, if you've really been into it and you're really into the toys, go ahead and give it a shot. It's not my favorite, but it's not the worst thing out there. I'd still watch it. Still a good enough watch, but not as good as the old stuff. I know, old man, talking about the older stuff being better, but in this case, get what you pay for. Hasbro paid to make the Sunbow series. Deke paid them to let them make their series. So think about that. Who's making money? Who doesn't care? Doesn't care. Deke made a lot of stuff I didn't enjoy that I wished would have been better. But they did produce a lot of cartoons when I was a kid, so yeah, get what you can get. And in the end, I found G.I. Joe to be a fun thing in my life. Comic book by far the best part. The action figures were always so amazing. The vehicles up until the last few series, amazing. Quality always super high up in there. Occasionally you get a character with something cheap piece of plastic that would break off, like a visor or something, but in general, even for rough children, the majority of your guys would be okay. Other than at this point, probably some worn out rubber bands, which you can easily take them apart and put them back together with a new band and back good to go. I did that a few times myself. It's easy surgery. One screwdriver, no hassle. So, well, there's uh, my recognition of the G.I. Joesies. So, if you're feeling nostalgic, I recommend finding some cartoons. They're probably on YouTube. I know you can buy the Sunbow series on Amazon. It's in my wish list, so I'd love to pick that up and have an actual copy as opposed to MPEGs on the external hard drive from when I was naughty and downloaded things long, long ago. Uh, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this discussion of old G.I. Joe stuff. If you could, go ahead and give this video a like. Don't forget to comment down below. Especially if you had some thoughts about G.I. Joe stuff from when you were a kid. Or now. I mean, there's a lot out there. Some of you are younger. You may just be into it now. That little dingly bell. It'll let you know whenever there's new videos. My Patreon is in the description below. And yeah, in general, just please share the video with other people. And hopefully more people watch it and have fun too. But thank you for coming. And hope you all have a bang up rest of your day. Mwah. Mewtwo's watching you.